Hello, I am Xarkun, and this is World of Warships Legends. On the screen here, you see my build for a level 11 Norm Scott. Mikawa and Yamamoto are the inspirations. This is the build that I will be using in the following game, which features the Tier 6 Premium American Light Cruiser USS Atlanta, which I suspect will soon become a hot topic in the community, given that the Atlanta is the next premium ship available for Global XP. It will cost 500,000 points of Global XP, since it is a Tier 6 ship. Previously, the only ships available for purchase with Global XP were Tier 7 premium ships, and they cost 750k. So this is a little bit cheaper. Still, though, an epic grind to get to 500,000 Global XP. So I'm sure the question you have is it worth it? And that's what we're here to talk about. Now, obviously, I am driving the Atlanta B, which I purchased around Black Friday last year. The B stands for black. Only difference between the Atlanta B and the standard Atlanta is the color of its camouflage. Otherwise, they're exactly the same ship. Now, the Atlanta is a very peculiar ship in World of Warships Legends. It's very unlike any other light cruiser. First and foremost, it is excellent, possibly one of the best ships in the game for dealing with destroyers. See, we pop the radar there to reveal a Fubuki in the Alpha Capture Point. We open fire immediately, kind of miss him with the first salvo, which is unfortunate, and then we have to adjust the aim. He is turning away, and he is able to dodge a fair amount of our shells, but still, quite a few of them hit their mark, and you can see just how quickly they shred his hit points. He has escaped now. As the radar expires, we do hit him there with that last salvo, so he's on pretty low health. His torpedoes are coming forward. Maybe we should have deployed the sonar, but we didn't. Nevertheless, we're able to reverse out of danger, and no harm has been done. So, this ship is uniquely capable of dealing with destroyers. In fact, I would say its designation as a cruiser is a bit of a misnomer. If anything, this is like a colossally huge destroyer. A colossally huge gunboat destroyer, that is. It does have USN destroyer guns. They're 127mm guns, just like the ones you'd find on the Benson or the Fletcher. They fire at, or they reload in 5 seconds, so they have an incredibly quick firing rate. And like the USN destroyer guns, they are very effective at dealing with enemy destroyers. The only difference is on the USN destroyers, you get a maximum of, 5 guns. On this, you get 16, 14 of them, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 of them. 3 turrets on the front of the ship, 3 turrets on the back of the ship, and 1 turret on the wings of the ship on either side, for a total of a 14-gun broadside. Now that sounds like a lot, and it is, but you do have to keep in mind that these are destroyer caliber guns on a cruiser frame. So they share the ballistic characteristics of the other USN destroyers. Namely, they're very floaty shells. They like to hang around in the air for a long time before they come down and hit whatever it is you're aiming at. So at longer ranges, you're going to find that they can be rather tricky to aim, and it can sometimes be difficult to land shots on anything smaller than a slow-moving battleship. On the other hand, you can pump these shells out so quickly that it really doesn't matter if you miss a couple salvos. You just watch where the shells land, and you adjust your aim accordingly. The guns range out on my build to about 13 kilometers, but without any modifications to the range of the guns, I think their base range is about 11. So you do have to be fairly close to the things you're shooting at to do damage to them. And as you can see, we just pump out a huge volume of fire. At the Gneisenau, Colorado, Fubuki, we've already racked up 45,000 damage. And, you know, this is just an insane rate of fire. The HE, of course, is famous for being able to rain down fire upon battleships, light them on fire, force them to use their damage control. The Atlanta is, indeed, an HE spamming menace. Don't, however, discount the AP. Much like the USN destroyers, the AP on the Atlanta is quite strong, especially if you find yourself facing a cruiser that is relatively close to you. You see here we're switching to the AP on this New Orleans, who is turning in, so he's going to render the AP somewhat ineffective. You see we get a lot of bounces there. So we do switch back to the HE. The New Orleans is perfectly capable of beating the crap out of the Atlanta. Luckily, this one happens to be on very low health, so with our incredible rate of fire, we are able to take him out pretty easily there. Now, the Atlanta is a tricky ship to play. This is not a ship that I would recommend to anybody who is inexperienced in the game. Because of the ballistics on the shells, and because they take so long to reach their target at range, like I said earlier, you do have to be fairly close to whatever you're shooting at to do damage. And if you're close enough to them to do damage to them, they're close enough to shoot you. So you're going to find that you need to utilize island cover in order to not get obliterated in this ship. It's got a very low hit points pool, 27,500, which I think is the lowest or the shallowest hit points pool for any tier 6 cruiser in the game. This is very much like, well, it's very much more like a destroyer than it is a cruiser. It's just, you know, a giant hulking colossal destroyer with terrible sea detectability by destroyer standards, although pretty good sea detectability by cruiser standards. I think I've got it under 10 kilometers for its sea detectability range. And it does have torpedoes, but you do have to be suicidally close to use them. They only range out to 4 kilometers, much like the Russian destroyers. So don't plan on using these torpedoes unless you want to throw away your ship, YOLOing a battleship, or if you find yourself in the unique situation where you're able to ambush another ship from around the corner of an island. Although even that is dangerous and it may not work out for you all the time. So this is a ship that needs to be played carefully. You definitely need to utilize the island cover. Your primary target is destroyers. You are incredibly good at taking them out. We've got a Gnevny out there, second destroyer we've shot at during this game. You can see that first salvo takes away about a quarter of his hit points. And these 14 127mm guns firing HE at a destroyer, absolutely devastating. See, we get 3K there on that Gnevny. And that salvo actually counts as a devastating strike. The Fubuki there thanks us for our efforts, and I do have to say something about this particular Fubuki player. We are the last 2 ships left alive on our team, and we are going to give it our best effort to win this game. This Fubuki does an incredible job. By the time I was finished with this game, I wanted to send him a message, you know, say good game and whatnot, as I like to do when I notice people playing particularly well. Unfortunately, due to his settings on the PlayStation Network, he does not accept messages from random players, and his profile said he speaks only Japanese, so we probably would have had a hard time communicating with each other. Nevertheless, I thought I could make this video and give him a little shout out here because of his incredible performance. We're in a situation where we've got 3 enemy ships. We do hold the majority of caps and we do have a points lead, but in order to not lose this game, we have to do 2 things. Number 1, we have to maintain our hold on the Alpha and Bravo caps, and number 2, we have to not die. So I am sort of sailing around here trying to figure out a good position. I'm on the mic asking the Fubuki if he has a mic. Don't think he does, but even if he did, like I said, I think he speaks Japanese, so the language barrier might have been a problem. Anyway, he is pinging the enemy USS Indianapolis, which is sailing toward Bravo. Indianapolis, of course, is another radar cruiser. Very dangerous to the friendly Fubuki. So he does want me to take the Indianapolis out. Now that is a risky proposition for the Atlanta, which doesn't have a lot of hit points, has no access to heals, and is not what you would call heavily armored. Now I am spotted by something. It is the enemy Fubuki, first ship that I took shots at. So I pop the radar, reveal his position immediately, and desperately start to lay down fire. You can see just by the little movements that he is making, swinging the rear end of his ship around as he's doing, that it makes it incredibly hard for me to hit him. Radar runs out and we lose sight of him, which is quite unfortunate. Got friendly torpedoes sailing toward that Fubuki smokescreen, missed the enemy torpedoes coming my way there, and the Indianapolis is headed right for my position. He's radared me. Here you see how effective the AP can be against broadside cruisers. That wasn't a great example, but we are able to take out that Indianapolis very quick. Did take a nasty hit from him, so a single hit from that Colorado might very well end the game for us. That means we need to stop firing our guns and pull back into cover. The Atlanta is very much not an open water HE spamming cruiser in the way that, say, a Mogami or a Charles Martel might be. It really does require island cover to keep out of danger, and as a consequence it is somewhat situational. I would argue that it has been power crept by the existence of things like the Belfast in the game, or the Shores, or Kutuzov or Chapayev, all of which are rapid-firing HE spamming menaces that can shoot at a lot longer ranges than the Atlanta. They don't have nearly as many guns, but that really doesn't matter if you're in a Kutuzov sitting in a smoke cloud 18 kilometers away from the enemy battleship you're spamming HE at. Plus, the ballistics on those ships tend to be a lot less floaty than the Atlanta. You can see that these shells practically go straight up into the air before they come down on their target. So it does take a little bit of practice to get the aiming down right, even when you're shooting at a slow-moving battleship like a Colorado. You saw some of our shells completely missed that guy. The other ones are hitting, though. Stopped firing here because I wasn't sure if the Colorado would be able to spot me through that gap in between the islands, but once I had this sort of ridge of the island directly in front of me between myself and the Colorado, I was comfortable with opening fire again and starting to whittle him down. The enemy has flipped the Bravo cap, but because we took down the New Orleans and because we had the cap advantage for so long, we still have a points lead, which at this point in the game is insurmountable for the enemy team. The only hope they have of achieving victory is to kill me or the Fubuki. and neither of us are going to put ourselves in a position to die. We are going to end the game this way. I was trying to get close enough to see if I could possibly get the torpedoes on target, but again, they are 4-kilometer torpedoes. There's no need to rush the Colorado and potentially die in the process. We can simply turn here, keep the island between ourselves and the enemy battleship, and we will have won the game that way. So my final thoughts on the Atlanta: it's still a very strong ship, although it is tricky to play. You're going to have a hard time if you don't utilize cover and if you don't understand your role, which is one of the most effective destroyer killers out there. Destroyers are your primary target. Shooting HE at battleships is fine, but it's sort of like the icing on the cake. If you have the time to grind for 500,000 global XP, I'd say this is definitely a ship you should pick up, although I am a little bit hesitant to recommend that because I don't want to encourage the proliferation of the HE spamming menaces. Anyway, that'll do it for the video there. You see we had 3,000 base XP along with that Fubuki, who had a fantastic game. Hope you enjoyed this little video on the Atlanta. If so, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel if you have not done that already. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.